American athletes did decide to compete in the 1968 Olympics, but chose to demonstrate in other ways. When Tommy Smith and John Carlos won the gold and silver medals in the 200-meter dash, they bowed their heads and raised their fists during the playing of the Star-Spangled Banner. Despite the controversy this protest created, Bob Beamon could not afford to be distracted. On the day after this protest, Bob Beamon was attempting to qualify for the long jump finals. After fouling on his first two jumps, Bob was on the brink of elimination.
Ralph Boston was watching me and observing me, and he knew that I was very nervous. I just couldn't get it together. Geez, I'm 3,000 miles away from home, and I know my mother loves me and all that stuff, but I just didn't have my mind really centered on it. And then suddenly Ralph came over to me, my teammate, and said, Bob, you got to put it together. It's your last one. Forget about the first two. Move it back 3 feet.
Bob took Ralph Boston's advice, and on his last attempt, he qualified for the finals. By entering the finals, Bob Beamon would be competing against 3 men who were all capable of setting a new world record. There was Ralph Boston from the United States, the 1960 gold medal winner. Igor Terovanesyan, the Russian and current world record holder. And Lynn Davies of Great Britain, the gold medal winner in 1964. On October 18th, the day of the finals, Bob Beamon stood at the runway, getting ready to make his first jump.
I had no pressure at all. I was extremely peaceful and confident that I would be number one. I wasn't going to settle for anything else but being number one. It was very strange that day on the 18th, and it was basically ready to rain. The clouds were coming over the stadium, and I had this sense of being alone. No one around me. I wasn't feeling lonely, but it was just the feeling of just by myself and calm and peaceful and loving what I did the most, and that was long jumping. And all those things that came into my mind, I've got to be number one and bring home the gold medal to my parents and to our country. We wanted to win it. But I also wanted to prove some things to the people locally in my community that not only am I a champ as an athlete, but also as a human being, because everybody thought that I was going to be spending the rest of my life in jail. So all of these things were going through my head.
As Bob left the pit, he had no idea how far he had jumped. There was a long delay in posting the distance because the optical measuring device could not reach the point where Bob landed. Instead, the officials had to use an old-fashioned steel tape.
Ralph Boston was the one that could figure out, translate the meters into feet. Mm-hmm. And I'm walking around, I said, well, maybe Ralph, just 27 something. He said, well, let's see what they end up with the manual tape. And then suddenly he says, 8 meters 90. Bob, you jumped 29 feet. And from that time on, everything was just downhill. I fainted kind of. I was kind of like between time and space.
Bob's gigantic leap traveled 29 feet 2.5 inches, breaking the world record by an incredible 21 3/4 inches. Certainly one of the greatest achievements in track and field history, Bob Beamon's first jump in the finals earned him the one thing he coveted most, an Olympic gold medal.
Always trying to analyze sports and say, well, what percentage of success is attributable to mental attitude? How much of the long jump would you say is mental?
Well, the entire long jump itself, from the running part to the jumping part, is actually mental. If you're not mentally ready to do your job or your assignment, whatever it might be out there in competition, then you might as well forget it, because you have to have the mental stability to be strong and to have all those characteristics together. If you don't get out there and compete.
When Bob Beamon made his historic jump, his frame of mind must have been perfect, just like the jump itself. Bob's leap was so extraordinary, Beamon himself realized it would never be surpassed, at least not by him. Experts estimated that Bob's jump was a generation ahead of its time. No one else had even jumped 28 feet, let alone 29 feet, 2.5 inches.
You had set a new standard in the long jump, actually an unreachable standard. After the Olympics, what were your personal goals in the long jump?
Well, after the Olympics, it was a pretty hard number to either duplicate or to either try to surpass at any given point during that year or years after. It was very hard. I was probably looking at maybe changing my event to the triple jump, because in high school I was the national record holder in the triple jump, so there was a possibility that that I could come back as a great triple jumper. But long jumping, I think that the interest was not there anymore. I wanted to find something else that could give me that peak experience that I had in Mexico City.
When Bob did compete in the long jump, there was always the anticipation that he might duplicate his world record performance. He never came close. Bob's record of 29 feet, 2.5 inches was so unreachable, he would finally turn in his track shoes in pursuit of another challenge, a college degree.
In 1972, you graduated from Adelphi University with a degree in sociology. That's a long way from growing up those days back in South Jamaica.
Absolutely. I would associate that as one of the great peak experiences in my life, because I remember very vividly during the first 6 or 7 years of my life in school, I couldn't read or write. And I think that was a great story in itself, or a great Olympics in itself, of winning first place, of learning how to read and write, and then go on and graduate from college. That was a tremendous, and being the first one out of the family, or the first one in the family to graduate from high school, that is, was a tremendous feat for my family.
And you eventually went on to become a director of youth programs. What spurred your interest in that area?
Well, I've always been involved with children, and remember, children are our greatest asset for tomorrow, and I feel that it's my duty to always pass that torch on to the younger generation so that they can pass it on to their children. That information is very significant for younger kids. They need to have that early shaping up and to become great citizens of this country. And we're losing the battle to other things like drugs, and it's so important that we have people out there like myself is to give that message to that you can do the things that you really want to do in life, and here are some of the ways that you can do them. So I spend a lot of time with children, making sure that they get that message.
Greatest sports legends will return following these commercial messages.
Bob, today people still consider your historic jump the greatest athletic achievement of all times.
Sure.
Do you think anybody will ever break your record?
Oh, sure.
When?
One day.
When?
It could be, first of all, it could be Carl, it could be Myrick's, it could be Mac Powell, it could be a person that's a junior in high school that will one day be at the Olympic Games or be somewhere in one of the big international meets and break the record. I foresee it to come. They say that it won't happen until the year 2000, but you never know.
On August 30th, 1991, at the World Championships in Tokyo, Mike Powell broke Bob Beamon's long jump record with a leap of 29 feet 4.5 inches. 23 years earlier, on October 18th, 1968, Bob Beamon had shocked the world with his prodigious jump. Experts claimed his performance was a generation ahead of his time, and they were right. Today, Bob Beamon works with young children, encouraging them to stay in school so they can one day shape their own future. A true Olympic champion, Bob Beamon has not only left his mark in the world of sports, but also among those of the next generation.
Well, I just want to thank you for coming down to Dana Point Resort and sharing your memories of your career and that one historic moment with us on Greatest Sports Legends. And I wish you all the best in the world. And our kids do need it. They really do. Thank you.